so our wine here is, the bubbling is slowed down. Now it's slowed down. If you look, you can still see it bubbling a little bit, but it's slowed down enough that I'm concerned the bubbling is not keeping bad stuff out of it. So I'm going to rack it into, the other thing is that we are in a heat wave here, and I never have to worry about heat waves with Dandelion wine, because Dandelion wine should brew a little cooler than most wines, and I never usually have to worry about that because it's done so early in the year. But it's actually almost 85 degrees here today, and that's a little too hot for me to have this upstairs. So I want to get it downstairs, but I don't want to leave it here. I want to put it into a jug. Now, for those people who are on a budget, I'm a cheapskate, so I'm going to tell you something. You can go down to, you know, these are just used jugs from wine. They're wine jugs, and you can go down to your local bar and ask if they use these. If they do, ask them to set them aside. If you do that, though, be polite. Ask them when's the best time for you to come down. Like if they want you to come down Saturday night to pick up your jugs, don't leave them sitting there till Sunday morning. Go down Saturday night and pick those jugs up. That's the polite thing. Then they're not tripping over them. They don't have drunks that might trip over them and hurt themselves. But go down to the bar and just ask them to save their jugs for you. And most of them are quite willing to do it. That way they don't have to worry about it. They just put it into a crate and you come down and get it. And as long as you're polite about it, they'll do it for you. What I did, you can get Camden Tablets. One second. These are Camden Tablets. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I bought this forever ago. I never use it. I bought it because I thought, oh, I make wine, I'll have this stuff. This kills off unwanted yeast and things like that. But what works better and cheaper is boil water and pour water over and through your jug just to sterilize it. I poured some through my racking tube, and I also have over here, I've got my this is what I'm going to use for my airlock, and I'll show you that in a minute, but I've got that sitting in boiling water too. And boiling water kills off everything that you got to worry about. So it's a lot cheaper than this, and I'm a big one on cheap. And like I said, I bought that forever ago because it was one of those weak moments of mine that I went shopping, and I very seldom do that. And I bought it. So anyway, I'm going to show you how to rack this out. Now, there's two different ways. You can filter this out, pour it slowly through a funnel with a filter cloth in it into your jug. That works fine. Racking is the time-honored way that people made wine for a very long time. They made wine. It's pretty much considered to be the way that most winemakers do it and have done it over the years. So I'm going to show you racking, but just know that you do not have to go through racking. You'll get a clearer wine if you rack, but what you don't want to, but don't worry about it. You can, if you filter it enough times, you're going to get a clear wine, and you're going to have to do more than more than two fermentations anyway with Dandelion wine. This is the first fermentation. We just got done with that. We're going to start the second fermentation by taking it and putting it into our jug. So I'm going to put you guys on your tether over here and get started. First of all, I'm in grubs. 90% of the times you'll see me as I'm in grubs. What you're going to want to do is have your wine, the first fermentation sitting up on top of something, and then you want your second fermentation vessel down below. You can do this outside because it can get a little messy. I just put a towel down. Then you need a tube. Now this is a nice diameter tube. You guys may not be able to see it. The bigger the tube, the faster it's going to go. The smaller the tube, the slower it's going to go. The slower it goes, the more control you have, the faster it goes. Of course, the faster you get done. So you want to kind of find a compromise where you still got control, but you're actually getting done sometime this week. So anyway, you can buy actual racking pumps, and that is a pump that goes, you get the tube and the pump does pulls the siphon out, pulls the wine out of the top instead of your mouth. That's the more sanitary way to do it. It's also considered to be the best way because you won't put any of your bacteria from your mouth into your wine jug. I have been siphoning it with my mouth. I've never had a pump, and I've been making wine since, well, heck, since I was 16, 17 years old, and I was helping the family make it long before that, and we've never introduced bacteria. But you can buy a pump. Somebody's going to be watching this and say, hey, why don't you use a pump? Because I never have. Now, one end, of course, is going to go into your wine up here. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing here. Let me come over here real quick. One end's going to go into your wine, and you don't want it to go all the way to the bottom, because at the bottom of your wine is what's called the lees, L-E-Y-S, the lees, and that's where all the dead yeast is gone. As this is working, the yeast is coming to life and then dying and falling to the bottom, and you don't want to suck that up. That's cloudy. It makes your wine look bad. So you keep it just a few centimeters above the floor of the first fermentation vessel. Your main thing is you don't want to pick up any of that cloudiness, and I'll show you that after we get it drained, that cloudiness that's in the bottom, that's the lees. But anyway, so you want to just kind of keep it just a little bit above that. So we're going to just now kind of pull the siphon in and suck up a little and start getting it into our thing here. Okay. Really, it's that simple. Now the thing is, you got to kind of keep an eye on both sides. You got to keep this side in down here, and you got to make sure that side doesn't overflow. And I'm going to do that. You're going to be stuck watching me, but I'll probably cut away, and so you don't have to sit here and watch this. It takes a couple minutes, and then I'll come back and show you the results. So we've emptied our primary fermentation our first fermentation vessel, which is often called the primary. And you can see down here, I'm going to run my fingers over it. You can kind of see the slimy, that's called the lees, and you certainly do not want that into your secondary fermentation vessel. You want to keep as much of it out. We're going to rack it, and it's going to create its own, because it's going to create more of these lees because it's not done fermenting. It's just done with its first vigorous ferment. So I'm going to run over here. Now what you're going to need is some sort of airlock, and you can go buy them. They're very inexpensive. You can pick them up for, you know, $1 or $2. You want to take, after you go to the bar and you get your jug given to you, take your jug with you, because every jug's got a different size hole, and you're going to need a cork that can go down into the hole. So you're going to need, so if you want to go buy one, that's perfectly fine. I have dozens of them here. You can also make your own. You can make them as simply as just taking a balloon, sticking it over the top, and some people say put a hole in it, which, yeah, you do. If the balloon starts really filling up, really, and, you know, almost starts expanding, then poke a hole in it. But a lot of times you can, if the balloon just kind of half fills up, you don't need to poke a hole in it, because it doesn't, it's not building up enough pressure. But if you put it on there and it come back a little bit later, and it's like getting bigger, just take a couple pins and poke, or a pin and poke a couple holes into it. I can do the same with an unlubricated condom. That's the old prison way of doing it. But here's another way you can do it, and I'm going to go grab that. I'll be right back. This is sitting in. It's kind of cooled off a little bit here because it's been cooling off since we did the fermentation. But this is a homemade airlock, and I'll show you how I did it. I had to make a homemade airlock. We're coming back around to the for this particular wine thing, because it's got such a narrow opening. You can't find it's very hard to find a cork small enough, even with an airlock, store-bought airlock. So basically you get a cork that fits in there enough to seal it, and you drill a hole through the cork, like so. And then you get a tube and you stick it down in the hole. If you can't get it, you know, like this one, that's all the further down it's going to go. And if you can't get it to, I'm sorry, looking at it myself. If you can't get it to seal, just get a little clay or something and stick it around the top here. That's not going to be touching any of the wine, so you don't really have to worry about it. That's just to keep the air from getting in. This is an airlock. Then you take a glass of any kind and you stick the other end of the tube down into the glass. Now, as this thing continues to ferment and releases its gas, the gas can come up through here and out through the water, but air can't get down in. It's a very simple fermentation lock. It just bubbled up, but I didn't catch it for you guys. Oh, there, see? You can see the gas is escaping. So what we're going to do now is this is going to set for about a month, 6 weeks. I'm going to actually put it down in my basement because, again, it is very hot, and I like my wine to brew at the coolest temperature I can possibly brew it at, mainly because I get less fusel oils in it then. Fusel oils are the poisons that make you, are one of the poisons that make you have hangover. Less methanol too. Methanol, the higher your wine ferments, the higher temperature your wine ferments, the more methanol it will have. So anyway, so I'm going to put it down in my basement where it's a little cooler. It's about 68 down there instead of the 85 it is up here. I don't have air conditioning, and so it can, again, like I said, brew at a little cooler temperature and produce less things and also have a better tasting wine. So in my opinion, I tend to like wines that are fermented at a cooler temperature. That's it. So we're on to our second fermentation. Third fermentation, I'll rack it out into another jug. I'll show you that in probably another 6 weeks or so.